Hello everyone, my name is Leah Zavala and I teach in Denton ISD. Next week I will be starting my 9th year teaching and I'm excited to get back into the classroom, however that may look. Pictured here is me in my spicy lessons costume, which I wear every year when I teach my education and training interns about how they need to spice up the lessons at their field sites, get involved, get their students excited, and this specific lesson definitely challenges my interns to get out of their comfort zone in order to help them grow. So with that being said, presenting a pre-recorded session for this conference is definitely out of my comfort zone. I've never done this before, but like I said, it's getting me out of my comfort zone in order for me to grow, so I'm willing to try it. So as we go on this journey together for the next hour, let's continue to think about ways that we can get out of our comfort zones and spice up our lessons. All right, let's get started with a little warm up and create a meme. So if you don't know what a meme is, it is defined as a humorous image with a piece of text that is copied, sometimes in slight variations, and spread rapidly throughout the internet by internet users. So for those of you who have never done this before, I'll walk you through it. And if you have done this before, please feel free to go ahead and create your meme. You do not have to wait for me. So first of all, you can either scan the QR code there on your screen, or you can type in the link provided right there in step 1. It's highlighted in yellow. And when you get there, you'll see popular pictures there, which are the most used by internet users. Or in the search engine, the search box there on the screen, you can type in a keyword. So you can search things such as teacher, classroom, student, excitement, awkward, anything that you can think of that, and then when you hit search, the most popular pictures will come up. And for step 2, I would like you to create a meme that you can use within a lesson that you're going to teach within the first 2 weeks of school, if possible. So once you have selected a picture, you can add text to it. There's a spot for top text and bottom text. Once you finish the text, you click Generate Meme, and you can click on it and save it to your pictures, or you can send it via email or text, whichever you would like. I would like you to save this photo so that way you can use it within your first 2 weeks of teaching, whatever lesson you choose to do it for. Mine there that I chose is I would use it, of course, a couple first days of school. And it says, when you're waiting for students to volunteer to introduce themselves on the first day. So I'll go ahead and give you about 7 minutes to find the perfect picture, add your caption, and save it. One thing about this is that this is an easy way to incorporate pop culture into your lesson. You can use it as a warm-up about maybe things that they learned the day before, or a warm-up as things that you're going into that same day. For that lesson, it's just quick, easy, especially students, they have this stuff down that it's easy for them. Or you could use it as a closing, wrap up the lesson you just taught. You can have your students into Google Classroom or Canvas and an assignments tab. So I'll go ahead and give you a few minutes to do that. Here's our agenda for this session, just so you can know what to expect. Here's a short rundown of how I have spaced things out. We just did our warm-up, and I'll go over a few strategies, kind of why we need strategies that are easily able to be incorporated into your lesson plans. And then I would like to give you some time to look through maybe like your first 2 weeks of lessons and see where you can incorporate these strategies, or maybe others that you have found that you just haven't had time to implement yet. And I want you to have something that you can take away from this session that is ready to use. So just like we did the meme, I want you to have time to take away one of these strategies that you can use within your first 2 weeks. And last, I would like y'all to share out some of your ideas with each other. I believe that that we can all help each other and learn from each other. And maybe you have a difficult lesson and you're trying to spice it up. Maybe you're trying to get out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to ask during this work time, or put it in the chat so we can kind of all help each other. So why do we need to spice up our lessons? One reason, mediocrity doesn't motivate. We want to motivate our students. We want to keep them engaged. We want our students to grow and learn and get out of their comfort zone. So therefore, we have to stretch ourselves. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. I know my mother growing up always said it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So if I am a teacher and I'm up there entertaining, it's not what I'm doing, but it's how I'm doing it. It's edutainment is what we've heard. You have to entertain and educate. And you can do that with strategies. You can do that with costumes. It's just a matter of getting out of your comfort zone and spending that time to do so. So you can know a lot about your content, but if you don't provide the energy and richness to your lessons, students won't be hooked on it and they won't be engaged and they'll lose interest. It could be the most interesting subject out there. And of course, to us teachers, it is very interesting. It's the most interesting subject we have. That's why we majored in it. But to students, if they're not engaged, if you don't draw them in and hook, line, and sink them and maybe get dramatic with what you're saying, and then you can change it up and get really excited and then go really fast and then they're just hooked and then you can't keep up. So having that energy, having that excitement to spice them up. And you don't want to just teach, a majority of us have seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off and that teacher, Mueller. Okay, no one wants to sit in a classroom like that. Okay, we have to create an experience that they want to be there. And it's so easy with Family Consumer Science. We can create those experiences. We can make our lessons come alive. Here are the strategies that I'll dive into on the next slides. The meme one we've already covered in depth, so I'll start with the what, so what, now what on the next slide. And I want to encourage you to take pictures of the strategies on these slides so that you have something to reference when you're utilizing, trying to implement one of these strategies during that work and share time frame towards the end of the session. The what, so what, now what method is kind of like a ladder of inferencing. So the students take the data that they learned, what they observed, and they put it under the what section. And then under the so what, they could list or tell why it's important, draw conclusions, they could adopt a belief, the meaning, and then under the now what, that's where it could be a real world application. So now what do they do with the information that they have? How could it change their actions going forward? How can they apply this information in the class? So this can be used on a basic trifold piece of paper. You can do it where you have sections around the room. Maybe one wall could be the what, another wall could be so what, and another wall could be the now what. You could have it as an exit ticket. Any variation of this could be done if you're wanting your students to move around the room. You could take them out in the hallway. Anything to get them up and moving, or just the basic trifold will do. The next strategy is expert groups. This is a great one when you have a lot of material to cover and not a lot of time to do so. So this learning method is commonly confused with the jigsaw method. I have done both strategies in my classroom, and I do prefer this one, the expert groups, just because the level of peer collaboration and learning I have found just within my own classroom, it's higher with expert groups than jigsaw. So let me explain the picture that you're seeing. You have students in their home groups, and within their home groups, let's say you see the colors green, red, yellow, and blue. So all the greens will go to group 1, all the yellows will go to group 2, all the reds, group 3, all the blues, group 4. So you will give each expert group a topic. So let's say if you're doing culinary or nutrition, maybe foodborne illnesses. If you're doing child development, maybe the stages of child development. If you are doing education and training, maybe it could be the different parts of history of education. So all the green would learn about maybe one foodborne illness or one stage of child development. And then same with the other expert groups. Then you give them a time limit, then they go back to their home group and teach each other what they learned from their expert group. So this is a great way for peer collaboration. If you don't know what the jigsaw method is, that one is where one group is the entire expert and they just do like a group teach. They stand at the front of the class and they teach the class. So I find that students are more engaged with the smaller group than when listening to a lecture. Okay, so cafe conversations can be a little bit more difficult to master, but once you and your students get it down, it is so much fun. The groups in the conversation can be as big or as small as you like. I have found for starters, before, the class and everybody knows each other, that it's easiest to do pairs. So just a one-on-one conversation, what you'll have to do as the teacher is prepare the personalities. So people such as, it could be celebrities, it could be maybe if you're in the hospitality or culinary arts classes, it could be famous chefs. Or maybe if you are into teaching child development, it could be maybe in the voice of children characters, children's books, Disney characters, and then you also pick the topic of the conversation. So we've done this in my classroom, and we've had, characters as Mickey Mouse. We've had Justin Bieber, Beyonce, Kim Kardashian, Obama, Donald Trump. So it just gets a variety of characters in there. And when the students get into character, it's a different part of, acting and role playing that is just that different part of the brain that helps solidify learning and what they're talking about. So after you pick the topic and personalities, you can have them draw out of a hat or however you want to assign the topics. And then the student represents their assigned personality in that discussion about the assigned topic. So the conversation can last as long as you want, maybe about 20 minutes for them to just go back and forth asking those prompting questions. Give me your opinion. Why do you think so? How do you think that has affected how we are today? Things like that in the restaurant industry, hotel industry, child development, and the education of school. You can use this with any family consumer science topic. Even in fashion, how does this affect our trends that we're wearing today? What are the fads? And even if you wanted to switch it up, maybe after you master the basic cafe conversation, you could even assign different topics and personalities, kind of like speed dating. And then, okay, at this table, you're going to discuss one topic and then maybe stay there for about 5 minutes and then speed date to another table. Everybody has to rotate, and it's a different topic and different personality that are at those tables. So just a way to differentiate it, spice it up a little. As you see over here on my, I hear we're talking about child development theorists. He says, yeah, which one do you think is the most influential and why? So it's that prompting question of why. And, he says, well, great question. I think it's, whoever because of whatever. And they have to pull from what they've learned and providing that evidence. So this is a great one. It is, I will say it is more in depth, but it's a lot of fun. These two strategies are pretty self-explanatory, but the first one with panel, interview, or role play, you can have it set up like maybe one of those reality TV shows such as Chopped, Project Runway, Biggest Loser, maybe even Shark Tank, and they could be presenting, I don't know, a new invention for fashion or a new invention for interior decorating or architecture or, just different things like that. They could even interview for jobs because, all of our TEKs have the professionalism aspect in our TEKs, so they could practice interviewing. The second one of the human line / equation, with this one, you can use this easily as a get up and move around strategy. For some healthy rivalry, you could even have teams competing against each other to see who could finish the quickest and with 100% accuracy. You could have some student props, maybe like they could be the event in history, and others could be movers of the timeline. So maybe the timeline itself of the students can't move, but you have students who are the movers of the timeline. You can use this with history. All of our classes have a history to them. So you could do a history timeline with any of the FCS classes that we teach, or maybe you could do something like steps to a recipe, or the steps that you take in creating a fashion piece, Or even, what are the steps when doing interior decorating? What do we start with first in a room? So, but now as a teacher, you would have to print out those steps and have the students arrange them, print them out on, pieces of paper, and separate them with groups. Or if you just want one huge timeline, make sure all students are involved some way, because, when they're idle, they get into their own mischief sometimes. So even on the cue cards of the timeline, you could make it more fun and add pictures for the steps instead of words. Maybe if you're doing food science, it could be, periodic table elements to, get things in order on how do we convert, sugars or compounds, things like that. I don't teach food science, so I apologize. But, just different ways to differentiate it, spice it up. This strategy is a way for our students to express what they've learned in their own creative way. This is a way to differentiate the assessment to the student's own learning style. So it could be maybe they like origami and folding, or it could be kirigami and they could fold and cut, or maybe you could even just provide some basic supplies and a few parameters of requirements. Maybe you have to use two objects or at least two different colors, or something like that. And then you just turn them loose and they can draw something, they can build something. This is just a way for you to see where they're at, maybe figure out, did they grasp the concept for the day? Or maybe you could do this at the end of the week. Did they grasp the concept of what you're teaching throughout this whole unit? And Friday could be the open-ended creative project. Maybe they could create a poster for a new food that they're promoting in the restaurant, or just something like that. It's open-ended, very creative project that is very few parameters from you as the teacher, and where the students can just run away with their creativity. So the last strategy I will talk about is the Frere model. So just like the what, so what, now what strategy, the Frere model can also be used as a graphic organizer. So something that is just on a piece of paper, they can use as notes, they could turn in, they can put it in an interactive notebook. Or even if you wanted, you could, put a big poster paper and have a class discussion and the class create one. You could have them in groups or pairs, and they could each have a different vocabulary word they would have to come up with, and develop their own Frere model for that word. So this specific model is used for word analysis and vocabulary building. So the model prompts students to think about and describe the meaning of a word or concept. So they define the term, they describe maybe the essential characteristics, providing examples of the idea, offering non-examples of the idea, just different things like that. This is a great strategy for your intro principal classes where you have a lot of terms to define, or really just in any class, but I have seen this used a lot in mostly principal classes. Now the time has come where we apply what we've learned. Why put off to tomorrow what you can do today? So for me, I have found out that if I just say, oh, that's a great idea, I'll implement that when I get back to work and I have PD time and, time in my classroom to work, that's when I'll apply it. I never end up doing it because once school starts back up, it's 100 miles an hour nonstop until Thanksgiving. And I'm sure a lot of y'all are the same way. So please, please, please apply what you have learned right now. Like, I'm giving you time in this session to apply one of these strategies within your first 2 weeks of lesson planning. I'm not asking you to recreate your entire lesson plan, but see where you can implement at least one of these. And maybe if you don't like any of these, then use this time to implement something that you've been wanting to implement in your lesson plans and just haven't had the time to. Also use this time to talk, share out. Sharing is caring. We learn from each other. And so what has worked best for you? What has worked best in maybe the boring lesson plans you have, or the boring topics that you have had to teach? What have you done to spice it up? Or if you have a difficult lesson plan that you're really just struggling to spice it up, ask the group. Turn on your mic, ask the group what their thoughts are on this specific lesson or topic that you're struggling with. to ask them what their opinion is. You know, we learn from collaboration. We learn with brainstorming and bouncing ideas off of each other. If you're uncomfortable with speaking out, or maybe there are others that are speaking at the moment, then uh, feel free to use the chat and message in there. You know, ask for some ideas. So please use this time to collaborate, work together, and edit some of your lessons that really need some spice. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Please take a moment and share out how you spiced up your lesson. I'm sure all of us here would like to learn from each other, and I am more than happy to answer any questions by email since I am not on this virtual presentation. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the virtual conference.